Melania Trump voices opinion on immigration, calls for a country that governs with the heart. U.S. First Lady Melania Trump often lauds her husband's political approach. But she has spoken out against the Trump administration's most controversial policy. U.S. First Lady Melania Trump has hit back at her husband's hardline approach to immigration as she called to end the policy of separating children from their parents. Mrs. Trump's statement comes after nearly 2,000 children were found to have been separated from their families at the U.S.-Mexico border across a 6-week period. Her spokeswoman Stephanie Grisham said the First Lady believes we need to be a country that follows all laws, but also one that governs with heart. Ms. Grisham said Mrs. Trump hates to see children separated from their families and hopes both sides of the aisle can finally come together to achieve successful immigration reform. According to a Department of Homeland Security spokesman, between April 19 and May 31, 995 children were separated from 1,940 adults who were being held by U.S. Border Patrol. The tough approach means adults who try and cross the border face custody and even criminal prosecution for illegal entry. The policy has seen minors locked up in detention centers and kept away from their parents, but the spokesman insisted minors were held in decent conditions. "We have some of the highest detention standards in the world for children," he said. About 1,500 boys are being held in a former Walmart supermarket in Texas, and the government is erecting tent structures near the border to house the increasing number of migrant children, including unaccompanied minors, in custody. Mrs. Trump's comments follow a front page by the New York Daily News, featuring a harrowing image of a crying toddler, that slammed the Trump administration's controversial policy. The picture, taken by Getty photographer John Moore, shows a 2-year-old girl crying as her mother, a Honduran asylum seeker, is detained at the U.S.-Mexico border in McAllen, Texas. The tabloid ripped into Mr. Trump, labeling him a lying coward. The only thing worse than the nauseating cruelty of President Trump's immigration policy, captured perfectly by the agonizing stories of young children forcefully being separated from their parents at the border, is the craven dishonesty with which he attempts to sell it to the American people, the editorial read. The U.S. president tried to blame the separation practice on a law passed by Democrats, but it's unknown what law he was referring to. False. False. False, the editorial reads. A bipartisan 2008 law merely gave the government flexibility in processing border-crossing immigrants. In a tweet on Sunday, the U.S. president called for a bipartisan approach to create new immigration laws. But according to the BBC, critics of Mr. Sessions' zero-tolerance approach have said congressional action is not required to appeal or amend the policy. A top White House advisor also tried to distance the Trump administration from responsibility regarding the tragic immigration issue. Kellyanne Conway told NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday that nobody likes pulling apart families. Ms. Conway rejected the idea that Trump was using the kids as leverage to get Democrats to negotiate on immigration and his border wall. But she said if the Democrats are serious, they'll come together again and try to close these loopholes and get real immigration reform. Asked whether the president was willing to end the policy, Ms. Conway said the president is ready to get meaningful immigration reform across the board. Democrat Adam Schiff said the administration was using the grief, the tears, the pain of these kids as mortar to build our wall. And it's an effort to extort a bill to their liking in the Congress. Mr. Trump plans to meet with House Republicans on Tuesday to discuss pending immigration legislation.